All right, SoPal, I'll take the bait. Um, I'm actually in agreement with you for once. As long as you're in agreement with what shall not be infringed said. Now, I don't know if I'd be as harsh as shall not be infringed, where I'd be like, I don't care if they all point a gun at each other and pull the trigger. Because that's almost to say that I don't care if innocent people die or if people die in general. I do care. But I have as many dogs in that fight as I do watching two high school teams from an area that I don't live in have a game. I have no vested interest in seeing one triumph over the other. I would love for peace to happen on both sides. I don't think peace is going to happen. The whole question of who does the land belong to is a moot question. The land doesn't belong to anybody. If you think that the land belong now, I'm not saying you, SoPal, because you didn't say this, but there are people who have the view that the land belongs to Palestinians because they were there first, or some bullshit, or the Jews are like, no, we were actually here for like here first doesn't. When does here first ever dictate who gets land? Have you ever heard of any country? I mean, think about any country, especially this country, saying, "Oh, well, the Native Americans were here first. Let's all give it back to them." Like, yeah, but what would they do with the land if we gave it to them? Who was here before the Native Americans were here? Nobody. Maybe there was somebody here before the Native Americans were here, and we just don't know about those people, and the Native Americans drove them out. Um, this kind of goes back to the um, evolution theory of survival of the fittest and strongest survive and the weakest die. I mean, every single country in the world that is inhabited by human beings had to be fought for, and other human beings had to be driven out and killed or enslaved or whatever, for the current group of human beings to be in charge of that land. So the land doesn't belong to anybody. Whoever can fight to keep it is really the ones who, according to evolution, those are the ones who deserve it. So if the Palestinians are smart enough and strong enough and have a better military and they can drive the Jews completely out, then I don't want to use the word deserve. I don't want to say that they deserve it, but I can say that they win and they get the land. If the Israelis can keep the Palestinians out, then they win. I don't have a dog in the fight. It sucks that people are getting murdered. I understand both sides think they're entitled to the land. I understand both sides have completely different cultures. Jews hate Arabs, Arabs hate Jews. It's interesting that the Jews are surrounded by Arab nations, completely surrounded by Arab nations. I mean, that would be like that would be like any one of us living in a state in the middle of the country. Say that you lived in Kansas, and Kansas was the only conservative state in the whole country, and every other state around Kansas was a bunch of Democrats. And everybody was constantly attacking Kansas and wanting Kansas to wanting to drive the conservatives out of Kansas, and Kansas was able to keep their conservative state. You kind of got to hand it to them in that regard, that like I'm not taking sides. It's kind of amazing that Israel can actually withstand what they're going through. Again, I'm not taking sides, and I'm not saying that they're justified to bomb Hamas. I'm not saying Hamas is justified to bomb them. I'm just saying, like, I think it was World War II when, correct me if I'm wrong, wasn't it after World War II when Israel, or when the Jews were awarded Israel? I don't know. When ever since they were awarded Israel, or just given, like Israel was given to them, The Arabs have had a serious problem with it, but the Arabs and the Jews have hated each other for what, 700 years or 1,000 years or something like that. So the longer it goes back in history, the more likely it is to continue in the future. So if it was only like a couple months conflict, then that would be like, not a big deal. Kind of like, the US used to hate Japan, the US used to hate Germany, the US used to hate Italy. The US used to be at odds with a lot of countries during World War I and World War II, but now we're friends with all those guys now. But when you talk about the Jews and the Arabs, that conflict has not just been going on like that wasn't like a 5 or 10 year conflict during the 1930s or 40s or something like that. It's been going on for a very long time, and now generation after generation after generation is being bred to hate the other side. I don't think it's going anywhere anytime soon as far as the I don't think the conflict's going to end anytime soon. But I'm very much a libertarian when it comes to this. Just stay the fuck out of it. I think it's funny to listen to Bernie Sanders now. It's wrong of Israel to be cutting off food and water and supplies and fuel from the Gaza Strip. Those are war crimes. Well, if you're gonna say that Hamas is if Israel is committing war crimes against Hamas, you gotta take the other side of the spectrum and say Hamas is fucking bombing apartment buildings and killing babies and old people, and they're taking people hostage, and I'm sure people are getting tortured right now. I'm sure people are getting their eyeballs plucked out and all kinds of crazy shit right now. And I'm sure that it's happening to children and women and old people, and that's just what pisses me off. Like when somebody takes a side against Israel, or they take a side against Hamas or whatever, and they don't consider the other side. But the thing about it is that I'm not saying it was an unprovoked attack, because that's what people who want to politicize it will call it. But it was kind of out of the blue. I mean, we know that Hamas has hated Israel for a very, very, very long time, and that Arabs have hated Israel for a very, very, very long time. And then, but was there a warning? Like, was there a situation where Hamas was like, look, you guys got 6 months before you can do this, this, and this, and if you don't do this, then we're going to attack you? And they kind of make it known, and they have like demands, and it's like, here's our problem with you guys, and let's negotiate and try to no, I don't think there was any of that. At least nobody knows that there was any of that. There was just one day you woke up and it's like, holy fuck, Israel's on fire. What the hell's going on? And Hamas just started shooting missiles. At least that's the narrative, right? That's what we know. So in that case, it kind of makes you, if you're going to take sides, it kind of makes you lean toward Israel, kind of how a lot of people lean toward Ukraine, because Russia was the one who attacked Ukraine. So you can sit there and say, well, Russia had a reason to attack Ukraine, or they didn't have a reason, or whatever. But it's usually the aggressor, the one who strikes first, the one who draws first blood. Usually that person, that entity, that country, that whatever, they're usually looked upon as the bad guy in the public arena, right? And I know that Hamas will say, well, hey, what about this, this, and this that Israel did? I know that that's what they're going to say, because that's what everybody says. And that's what Russia says about Ukraine, But when it looks like an unprovoked attack, you got to understand that the world is pretty stupid, and the world doesn't do its research. The general public doesn't do its research. They just go, oh, it's an unprovoked attack. Fuck Hamas, or fuck Russia, or whatever. So, but again, I have no vested interest. I have no dog in the fight. Last thing I would ever want is for my fucking kids to grow up and then be deployed over there and be fighting somebody else's war. So, that's the only thing that concerns me, unfortunately, because I have a very small sphere of concern about it. Maybe that makes me a selfish bitch. I don't know.